What is going on, everybody? You are back on another edition of the Coach's Corner. I am Justin Dueppengiesser, and I am joined, as always, by my guy, Caleb James. Before we get Caleb in here, just make sure you take a second, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribing because we are officially in game week. We're going to have live NFL football on Thursday night this week. We are having Chiefs football on Sunday. I am fired up for it. Caleb, my guy, what is up, brother?
Been a very long off season, but it's finally here. It's time to roll. It's time to go see what number 15 of the boys can do. I even threw on the old Showtime Kansas City shirt tonight. This one, man, I'm looking forward to it. This opening week versus the Browns, this could honestly be the most important week of the entire season for deciding playoff seeding and the AFC. This could be a legitimate AFC championship game preview. I think both of these teams, people are going to consider them the cream of the crop in the AFC this year. It's going to be just electric, but, the season does start on Thursday night with, Tampa Bay, the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers are going to be going to play the Cowboys. That'll be exciting, but it does feel good that real football is here.
Yeah, no doubt. I've been biding my time and watching some Netflix shows and trying to just wait until the NFL got back on. A great Netflix show though, if you're looking for one. It's what is it called? It's called Crime and Penalties: Untold Story. You ever seen that?
I haven't seen it. No, I to be honest with you, I really don't watch a lot of TV outside of maybe some acclaimed shows like The Sopranos or The Wire, which RIP the Michael K. Williams, who plays the character Omar Little in The Wire. He passed away the other day, but that's a good show. But I'll be honest with you, after I watched all those college football games this weekend, I've literally been doing I've been watching a lot of football movies. That's what I did last night. I think I watched Friday Night Lights and I watched part of Rudy. So there's that. I'm in full football mode right now. It's time.
Yeah, I have to bargain with my wife. I can't I can't have the TV Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Well, I already have it then, so I can't take it Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday as well. Well, Friday I have games, so really Tuesday and Wednesdays it's something we like to do to watch a show. And it's funny you mentioned Sopranos. This show, that one that I'm talking about, it's about Jimmy Galante and AJ Galante, and they're basically Jimmy Galante is basically like the real life Soprano. Like
really?
In his office, he has a signed picture of Tony Soprano by James Gandolfini, the actor, and it says to Jimmy, the real life Tony Soprano. Like, it is wild. Basically, the dude ran like a trash company, was in the mob, bought his 17-year-old kid a hockey team, like a minor league hockey team, and let him run it. It is honestly wild. It's really a really good show worth a watch. But anyways.
I'll give it a look, man.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah, when I said Friday Night Lights, I wasn't talking about the TV show. I think the TV show is terrible. I was talking about the movie with Billy Bob Thornton about the boys down, based on the true story of the Permian football team.
So how about quick story on that? I went to a coaching clinic in Ohio, jeepers, maybe 10 years ago now. And after all the clinics stuff gets done, you go down to the bar with all the coaches and you just drink and you hang out. And one of the coaches there was a high school coach, and he was one of the coaches that coaches against Permian. That team that is the main team that Billy Bob Thornton coaches for Friday Night Lights. And when they made the movie, they actually contacted him and to learn about him and what he did and how he acted on the sideline. And apparently they contacted all the coaches in the area and stuff to learn. So that guy met with all the movie producers and met with the people and had to talk about Odessa and how they played and how the coach was and all this crazy stuff. But really cool guy. Sat there and drank with him the entire night. He ended up sending me a box of shirts of their team, so I got shirts from them. My wife still wears it around the house, so pretty cool.
The only football movie where they actually get the jargon right, because in a lot of the football movies they're just saying random things that you think a football player would say. Then when you're in the huddle and you're listening to the quarterback for the Panthers or whatever go through it, it actually sounds like a legit football play. Their coaches are making real coaching adjustments in there. So that's what I appreciate about that movie, is they're not just doing it up for the camera. They actually get that part right. I think that's probably why it's one of the greatest football movies of all time.
Yeah, Friday Night Lights is a really good one. So let's talk real quick. I just want to know, I just saw this that the Ravens signed Le'Veon Bell. Justice Hill is going to be out for the year, who was another one of the running backs after obviously they lost J.K. Dobbins. It was already kind of being said that Tyson Williams was going to be their backup. I mean, Bell, do you see him making any difference for the Ravens? Because I really kind of don't. He did not look like he had any bursts or really any athleticism left. He got ended up being a healthy scratch a few games for the Chiefs at the end of the year last year. So I don't think that signing really moves the needle for me at all for the Ravens.
No, I don't think it's going to do a whole lot, especially since I'm pretty high on Gus Edwards. I don't know if everyone else is. I thought he was a quality back last year for them. I always remember picking him up on my daily fantasy team because J.K. Dobbins did, he did lead them in carries last year or anything, but I feel like they're still comfortable with Gus Edwards carrying the load, and their offensive line should be pretty good again this year. They re-signed Mark Andrews. They got all the good tight ends and fullbacks, so I don't think it's a surprise what Baltimore's going to do. They're still going to come out and run the ball. Maybe those put in Le'Veon Bell for some short bursts, but I think they're just going to have, Gus and Lamar Jackson carry the load pretty much for them this year.
Yeah, and I watched the highlights a little bit of Tyson Williams, and he's a pretty capable running back, and he's got a pretty nice little highlight film from college. So yeah, I think Bell's just kind of insurance and another body potentially there for certain situations, but I don't think he'll get much run. But let's talk Chiefs Browns here. So this is a rematch of the playoff game from last year. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes ended up getting hurt in it and going out in the game, and Chad Henne came in and finished them off. And we've kind of heard the Browns chatter for the entire offseason about how the game was close and this and that. And I don't know if like they realized how bad they were getting beat when Mahomes went out of the game, or if they forgot, or to me, there's a bunch of interesting matchups in this game. There's some stuff that I think are going to be key for the Chiefs. But right away, I kind of want to know what's your feeling on this game. I'm always interested to see, that you see a lot of these teams that come off of a Super Bowl loss and they come out and they do not perform in the next season. So I'm going to be interested to see how kind of the Chiefs handle that right away, and an opponent that a lot of people think are going to make a push for this, a nice little playoff run, and they're supposed to be in taking another step forward this year.
Dude, if you look back to the first half of the game when Mahomes is healthy, and mind you, we didn't even have Clyde in there. The Chiefs really just kind of routed them in the first half. They were lapping them. It wasn't even close. The first two drives the Chiefs had offensively, they went downfield, and I don't think Mahomes threw an incompletion. They looked crisp. They looked sharp. Knowing, the Chiefs had their, that backup offensive line, and they still weren't getting any penetration hardly at all with Myles Garrett. Now, when Mahomes went out, obviously that changes the complete aspect of the game. But the big thing for me is I know in Kansas City we have like some bad nightmares about some horrible run defense games. The Chiefs' defensive line came out with Chris Jones at defensive end, and they basically came out and they dominated Cleveland from start to finish. And they shut down the run game in the first half. They made Baker Mayfield make plays. Baker Mayfield did make a few here and there. He also threw an interception, late in the game or early in the third quarter that didn't make it help them out anymore. Now I know everyone's talking about how Cleveland has revamped their team, and I saw their young linebacker from Notre Dame said he's ready for Travis Kelce. We're gonna find out, because it's one thing to revamp your defense and have a bunch of like young guys in there playing in your secondary. It's another thing to do that and start your season versus a team like the Chiefs, who I think we just saw. They look like they're in form already after the first couple of drives of that preseason game versus Minnesota. Mahomes and everyone looks locked in. Big thing for me though is the Chiefs really successfully ran the ball against Cleveland. Cleveland was going to play the light box, and Darrell Williams, he really carried the load behind not a very good offensive line, I felt at the time. And now the Chiefs have completely rebuilt this unit. So yeah, I think that's going to be nice. A big offensive matchup for the Chiefs that I want to watch, that I think is going to be incredibly underrated, but I think it's going to help decide the game, is going to be Myles Garrett versus Lucas Niang. I want to see how much help the Chiefs are going to give Niang, and I want to see how he goes out and performs, because I'll tell you guys what, he's been looking very impressive in the preseason and in camp. He's going to be thrown into the fire. This is going to be a battle week 1 versus him and, potentially the best edge rusher in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that when I look at like some of the keys to this game, that's definitely one of them right away is the Chiefs offensive tackles versus the Browns pass rush with Myles Garrett, especially, who is, like you just mentioned, one of the best defensive ends, if not the best defensive end in the NFL. He's a freak of nature. He's everything you want in a pass rusher and an edge defender in the NFL. He's big, he's fast, he can bend, he can do multiple pass rush moves. He's an absolute stud. There's really not much to be said about him. So it's like you said, are the Chiefs going to help the tackles, which in the past they haven't? Everybody knows that, generally speaking, in Andy Reid's offense, they leave the tackles out in islands. Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz were on islands for years, just left out there. Hey, you gotta win one-on-one, and they did consistently. So I'll be interested if they do that again with Niang and in Orlando Brown right away. And we're going to find that out, I think, pretty early in the game, how they're going to handle that. And then the other, on the flip side of that, I think one of the other keys that I had was the Chiefs front seven against the Browns run game, their offensive line, and even really the tight ends, because I kind of, when you package that all together, right, the Browns have a tremendous run game, and then they love those little play action stuff to the tight ends off of the run game, and they got good tight ends. They have Austin Hooper, who's been a good player in the NFL for quite a while. They drafted Harrison Bryant a couple of years ago, who is an up-and-coming guy. They got David Njoku, who's an athletic freak at the tight end position. So they got some tight ends that they can run out of there. And obviously we're missing Willie Gay, who is on IR. So is Ben Neiman going to step up? Nick Bolton, Andy Reid said he thinks he's played well and is going to get some run. So, how is that Chiefs defensive line going to handle the Browns offensive line? And then, how are those linebackers are going to combat against the good running backs and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and those tight ends for the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, dude. Hey, who's primed to have a really big week this week is Hitch. This is what he lives for. This is the kind of game he's designed for. And here's something I've been thinking about, with the Chiefs defensive line this year. You got those guys in the middle, Jaron Reed and Derek Nottie. Those guys demand double team. You're not moving those guys very far off the line of scrimmage. So that's taking away 2 blocks. That's going to that's giving, those linebackers, even if it is Ben Neiman out there, more time to read and adjust. I think this was planned so that they could help Bolton and Gay get up to speed eventually. Then you go Chris Jones at defensive end against the run game. He's going to command a double team also, because he's not going to get moved off the ball by a tackle who's probably not going to be able to out leverage him down there. So that's going to be a tremendous matchup. I think Hitch has a pretty big week this week, though. I think that the Browns, they want to run it in between the tackles. This is where I think we've seen Hitchens really play his best, though, because what are the games last year Hitch played his best? Against the Raiders a couple of times when they were going to pound it inside, and the playoff game versus the Browns. So I think this is kind of a tailor-made game for him. And, I think it's going to hurt not having Willie Gay against the play action pass. But I think if the Chiefs take away the run game, they're going to force Baker to throw it down the field now. Probably have to be on the lookout for some trick plays. I expect that kind of stuff from the Browns, but the Chiefs have not lost in September in a while, and the Browns have not won an opener in a while. So either something's going to give or we're going to see more of the same.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I want to see what Anthony Hitchens does. He is in his contract year, I believe, right? So, we've talked about this in length on this show about how the contract year is undefeated. That is something the late great Terrence Baylor used to say all the time, that the contract year is undefeated. And Anthony Hitchens has already come out in preseason. He looks faster. He looks like he's reacting better. So we're going to see. And if he comes out and plays like that, it's going to be a huge, huge boost to this defense. Another key to me for this game is the Chiefs' red zone offense. It gets brought up a little bit, but I don't think it warrants enough attention that how poorly they actually struggled in the red zone this past year. They're only 16th in the league, which is just average. And that is crazy for a team that scores as many points as they do, right? So they're, one of the top scoring teams while still being just an average team in the red zone. And I think a lot of that boiled down to is just their inability to be able to line up and run the football for a yard or two when they have to do it. When the other team knows you're going to run it, Can you line up? Can you get a yard? Can you put yourself in the end zone without having to be cute and having to do all these reverses and, Ferrari right, Ferrari left, Mahomes rolling, trying to make crazy plays, flips to Tyreek or to Travis Kelce's, and Kelsey's throwing it back to Mahomes. Like, can you, when it matters at times, can you line up and get a yard or two? Yes, there is a time and place for all that other stuff, but there are times where you have to be able to do that. And I want to see early on, can the Chiefs do that? Can this new offensive line and this new revamped line, when the pressure's on in red zone situations, when it's 3rd and goal from the 1, can you line up and smash it down their throat and run it? When it's 3rd and 3, can you line up? Can you have the option to run the ball, instead of always just having to go, all right, Pat, we need you again, buddy. Like, do it again, So that's another big key to me, is kind of seeing what this red zone offense does.
Yeah, there's going to be a time and a place, like you said, for the fun plays, for the reverse plays. That'll be when we're up a few touchdowns on the Raiders or the Broncos, getting a little towards later in the game when they do some fun stuff. This week, though, they have to come out and make a statement this week. They were pretty much called – we've been talking about this all offseason. They were pretty much called soft the entire week after the Super Bowl. Bruce Arians is up there saying this is some Kansas City bullshit or whatever. That's some of that stuff. Well, now this is their chance, because the Browns, their fan base and their players, they've been talking a lot. They're real confident right now. They're coming off of their best season in a long, long time. But this team right now in Kansas City, that just doesn't have the feel of a team that's going to come in and let you down after a Super Bowl loss, even though that is so popular. I think they're still so young, and they're still so hungry, and they still have all that fire and desire. And now you got 3 guys on your offensive line who've never played in a real NFL football game before. Dude, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and Niang, those guys are going to be jacked up. They're going to be ready to go. And then you consider Orlando Brown Jr. has had a lot of matchups versus Myles Garrett. Has had success against Myles Garrett and the Browns. And Joe Thuney's probably one of the best. Is one of the best in the game at what he does. That unit up front, for me, the goal this week, they have to win. They have to win in the trenches. They have to dominate. They need to make it easy in the red zone. We don't need Andy Reid emptying the playbook this early in the season to score from the 5-yard line. We should be able to run power, counter, ISO, duo, whatever they need to do, run some toss. There's going to be a time and a place for the explosive plays, because I do think explosive, fun plays are a key to winning football games. But when you get the ball inside the 5, you need to move a guy off a spot. I think that's got to be a tremendous key for them this week.
I love how you say that. They need to come out and make a statement early, and they do. And I think that, you do that in the first week, it's going to put a lot of teams on notice, because obviously everybody watched the lack of depth that they had in the offensive line, how the offensive line struggled. And really, you saw it all year. I mean, it was just magnified in the Super Bowl because they had so many injuries. And then, when you have, your best tackle, both your best tackles out, it just is going to get even worse than it was. So I want to see them do that. Like you said, come out, make a statement, move guys off the football, pick up those 2 yards when you need to, and make it look easy. Don't make it like, oh my God, here we go again. And you clench up every single time there's a 3rd and 1 or something. You're like, oh boy, here we go. Are we going to get it this time? Just let's have a little confidence, a little swagger walking up the line, knowing that we're just going to blow some guys off the ball and pick this up with ease. Another big key to me, and something that I'm going to be watching pretty closely, is the wide receiver 2 in McCole Hardman. Is it his time? Is he going to take this opportunity and step up and be the guy, be that number 2 guy? Is he going to be able to do more than just take, those jet sweeps and reverses and just the deep balls? Is he going to be able to run crisp routes and run the comebacks and win one-on-one battles against press? The Browns have a pretty talented secondary. They really do. So, they've invested in the position. They've brought guys over. They brought Johnny Johnson over from the Rams at safety. They, drafted Denzel Ward. They've got a lot of guys back there that are good football players in that secondary, and in their defense in general. They're a good football team. So I'm going to be interested to see if Hardman can step up and be that guy where we've seen the talent flash, like he made that touchdown catch in the preseason where, just an incredible adjustment to the ball on the seam, or is he going to be the guy that a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom think he is, where he's just an average guy that's going to be nothing for the Chiefs in the long run?
Yeah, man, this is going to be a statement game for him also. I mean, coming out, he's definitely one of the guys. He's had the giant chip on his shoulder but he could have a giant key to success. Because another one of my keys to success I mentioned earlier is create more explosive plays in the other team. Those kinds of things it's backbreaking when Tyreek Hill goes for 50. It can be, we've even seen it from McCole Hardman. It's backbreaking to teams when he scores the long touchdown. If he can be the wide receiver two they make, I think the Chiefs can have a lot of explosive plays that, would probably get a young secondary down on themselves there in Cleveland. But especially after the Super Bowl, and the AFC Championship game, I think Hardman's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. I think it'll be interesting to see how they use him. I think it'll be interesting to see how I guarantee you they're going to probably let Byron and D-Rob play over Kemp and Fountain just for this week more than likely. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes down. If teams are going to let Byron Pringle stand 10 yards off of him, they're going to let us run a 5-yard curl route. We might as well just do that every time until they step up and want to play man on him. Because I get the feeling the Browns are going to come out and they're going to fall into the trap that the Chiefs are trying to set. They're going to try to play the exact same defense that Tampa did, even though their front seven isn't near good enough. I think they're going to give up a lot of underneath stuff to the Chiefs, just trying to prevent the deep stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be interesting to see in general too, like you said, how that wide receiver rotation just goes. Where is Demarcus Robinson coming to play? When is Byron Pringle coming to play? Who is that third receiver? Hardman right now is the number 2 guy. He's going to be the number 2 guy getting a lot of those options. But when they go through wide receiver sets, who's that third guy? It'll be interesting to see. It'll be fun to see kind of what they do with that. And then I guess my last thing is that second cornerback position in Mike Hughes. He has played pretty well in this preseason, but it is preseason. And I want to see how does he come out and fit in with the rest of that secondary who's had a lot of time now kind of to play together. Matthew, Ward, this is Snead's second year now with a full off season. Daniel Sorensen, looks like Thornhill's back healthy. These guys are all healthy now. Let's add Mike Hughes in here into that second cornerback spot. And what are they going to do, right? Take away those deep play action plays. Let's see if he can be that guy on the other side of Ward in this defense.
If he could play a very similar level of football to what Bashaud Breeland has the past couple of years, then the Chiefs are going to be A-okay. And honestly, he's a lot younger. He's more athletic than Breeland was. But, I wonder if we see him returning a punt or a kick at some point in this game also. I think that was definitely one of the things that everyone's been talking about. They think he's going to be something good at. I'll be on the lookout for that. But, the Browns, they're going to be out there with Odell and Jarvis Landry. Those the 2 guys, they know how to play the game. But it feels like this is just the year it's all coming together for the Chiefs defense, no matter who the opponent is. It just feels like this is that third year under Spags to where everyone on the roster is going to try to, everyone on that defensive side of the ball is going to gel. I think this is the best defensive line we've seen them had in a while. The linebacking core may not be outstanding early on if Ben Neiman's playing a lot and they're trying to, get Bolton adjusted, get Willie healthy. But I think they're going to be relying on that secondary, man. There's a lot of snaps in there between Tyrann Mathieu, Thornhill, Sorensen, and, Mike Hughes has played quite a bit of ball himself. Snead, he looks like he's going to be an absolute baller. Fenton's going to continue to be just that great role guy. It's a big overall year for the Chiefs defense. I think this year could be the best iteration we've seen of it, though. But I think that secondary this week, they're going to have to play tough. They're going to have to play physical. I want to see them out there frustrating Jarvis and Odell. I want to see the Chiefs frustrating the Browns in general because you can see a team's character when they start to come out. And I know the Browns, they're talking the talk, but are they really ready to be the team in the AFC? Because I think this guy right here is going to see if Baker's really ready to take the next step and be a quarterback, compete with him.
Yeah, no question about that. All right. Before we get out of here, last thing, I'm going to have you make a prediction if you have any predictions for the game, and then I'm going to have you give a score and tell me who you win. I'll go first. So I'm going to say the Chiefs win 38-20. I'm going to say Chiefs win 38-20. I'm going to say Chris Jones has 2 sacks. So that'll be my little extra prediction for the game.
Now, do you think he has those sacks in the interior or at the defensive end position?
I'm going to say coming off the edge.
Okay. Be a good matchup, Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wills versus Chris Jones. I think he can beat those guys with his bull rush. Those guys are kind of longer. They're not more powerful tackles. I know, they're good, but they're not used to going against that kind of load. My big prediction this week for the Chiefs, I think they are going to win the football game. I think it'll be like 35-17. And my big prediction for them is I think that we see Clyde Edwards-Helaire score 2 rushing touchdowns and rush for over 150 yards. I think the Browns come out and they run the carbon copy of what Tampa Bay did in the Super Bowl. We've seen the Chiefs struggle against those deep safeties, just not really just playing back to almost the first down marker. And I think Andy Reid sees that. I think those young guys up front are fired up, and I think that their mission is just to run it down their throats if we see that. And, all the national analysts are going to be like, look at all this help Patrick Mahomes has. But the earlier the Chiefs can run the football this season, the better, because it's just going to put teams in a harder and harder spot.
No question. Yeah, make sure if you're listening to this, put in the comments who you think is going to win and what you think the score is going to be. I want to hear from all of you guys who you think is going to win. But Caleb, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and if you're working on anything?
All right, guys, you can find me on Twitter at CJ Scoobed. Hopefully we can get some game film on here soon because I have not yet resubscribed to Game Pass. I'm going to wait until Saturday and then do it so I can get a free week trial and actually see if they give it back to us before I purchase it again. This week, I had a couple of articles come out last week. One of them came out on Sunday. It's all about the Chiefs' 4 tight ends and the 14 personnel and how I think they're going to use their different tight end sets this year. You could check that one out. I'm going to try to write a little game preview. And I've been doing the Twitter Spaces a lot. I think we might have something planned for later this week. You can check out for that. And then my other podcast, Chiefs Take, that's going to be moving to a new platform here soon. I would like it. If you guys want to check that out, I'll probably tweet about it here later on this week. But keep on keeping on, everyone.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter as always at jdiz1617 on the Twitter. Be on the lookout. I might have some articles coming out this week. Check out the other podcast called Ballin' Over Beers through Border Fuel Sports. That's all about fantasy and betting if you're into that kind of stuff. And we appreciate everybody being here. Go Chiefs. We'll talk to you next time.